Good morning, everyone, once again. Welcome and thank you for being here with us this morning at the Austin Center. I want to recap the global theme for January for 2024 from Centers for Spiritual Living that I know that Reverend Mary and Reverend Jean and Reverend Rainbow, we've all been addressing this throughout the month of January. And it's about the grand rising up based on the book, The Four Pivots, Reimagining Justice, Reimagining Ourselves by Sean Ginwright. And this week, the title is It's a New Life. The marketing teaser that we put out to you was that changing the world is not for the faint of heart. The challenges in front of us may seem insurmountable, but with the power and love of Spirit expressing itself as us, we can do anything. And that's the gist of today, that new life, addressing it, acknowledging it, being aware of it, and accepting that we are indeed the life of God expressing as us, the allness of God expressing as us. That's a big thing. That is a lifelong practice, is it not? To get that idea, to grasp that idea, to get that awareness, to lean into it. And the biggest leap is the acceptance of it. We can be aware of it. We can even acknowledge it, and we can go, ooh, no, that's not me. That's that guy over there who's doing wonderful, big, huge things in the world and changing the world in big ways. But I want to remind you with this, in this new life that we are living, that every single person that we might compare ourselves to didn't start here. They started here. And most importantly, they started here. That call that we get on our heart, that divine urge that came from today's reading, that is always impelling us, pushing us forward to be more, is that thing that says, I need you in human form. I created you in human form. And you realize I'm anthropomorphizing that word, God, into a human thing that feels separate from us. But it is not. It is an it. In the science of mind, in New Thought, we call God it. There is no gender to it. There is no human form of it. There's just that sense, that feeling, that knowing that something within us is living as us, living through us. The first thing that I want to talk about today, we did that affirmation. The affirmation is the universe is always conspiring for my highest and best. My affirmation for myself is the universe is always conspiring in my favor. There's a subtle difference to that, but it is the idea that I'm claiming it for my highest and best, yes, but in my favor. That's an important distinction. We can say, okay, so in my favor means that everything's going to be, unicorns and rainbows and blah, 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 and it's going to be lovely all the time. We're never going to have stress. We're never going to have anxiety. We're never going to have fear. But when we hang on to conspiring in my favor, that means that this power, this one thing, is always providing everything that we need to grow us into being a greater expression of itself. That might mean challenges. In fact, most of the time it will. They will appear as challenges unless we go back to that affirmation that says, this is happening for me. It's happening in my favor. It's not happening to me. It is happening for my highest and best, for the greatest outcome. For the greatest outcome. So we look at the world today, and we look at all of the externals, and our focus, of course, is on the human condition. And we see such division, such strife, war, greed, poverty, racism, all of those things that just seem, in my opinion, to have just gotten larger over the years. My theory on this And it has been for a while. And I think it's proving itself out. And I'll say that because what we know is where we put our attention, we get more of. So in my experience, I'm noticing that the people around me that are doing their work, that are doing their deep spiritual, emotional healing work in order to know God, to be a bigger expression of God, as we continue to become more aware and notice the good, the really good stuff, the way that we are all indeed connected, those that may not be doing, that are not quite there yet, are in tremendous fear. It's a tremendous pushback. I have moved away from any kind of regular news, and I have not for a long time. I know what's going on in the world. It comes up on my phone, whether I want it to or not. I get the headlines, and I get the drama of the world. I mean, even just this last week in Texas, the cold, not just in Texas, but everywhere, the cold snap that we go into. And what was so interesting to me is to watch the posts and things and comments from people who grew up in the North, which I did, saying, oh, what a bunch of losers and weak people you are because you can't handle the cold in Texas or in wherever it was, in Louisiana, or the sub-zero stuff. And it's like, come on, y'all, it's the weather. But that kind of division is that place of fear. It's that place of, like, I'm better than you. I'm stronger than you. I can handle this better than you. You're just, you're a wimp. It's like, no. So we see that kind of pushback, right? And it makes sense because we are individualized expressions of the one. We are all having our own experience. We all have our own sacred contracts of why we came into this life. And we have all these different ways, again, that Spirit is nudging us, moving through us to recognize we are all indeed connected. We are all indeed our brother's keeper. That we are here to take care of one another and to reflect to each other the places there that we might need to do a little more growth, a little more healing work. So, how do we deal with all of this? In this new life, what does this look like? Well, the first thing is faith. That was the reading from the Science of Mind text today. And faith is not a feeling. Faith is a state of mind. Let me get those words out. Faith is an action. Faith is a decision. Faith is a muscle that we need to exercise regularly until it becomes second nature to us. That our first thing is not to go to the drama, but the first thing is to go to God and say, God is in this too. God is in everything. And then right back to that affirmation. If God is in this too, that means the universe, God, Spirit, is conspiring in my favor. Conspiring for my highest and best. So I'm going to look for the highest and best. I'm going to focus on that and not on the drama. Not on the drama. The thing about faith is it is in direct alignment with that law that only says yes. And most of the time we will put our faith unconsciously using the law in the wrong direction. And what I mean by that is when we tell ourselves, or our conditioning, the conditioned thinking that we have says, this is not going to work, we prove the law by indeed, that the law works by proving that it doesn't work. So it is up to us to be aware, to acknowledge, to align with the truth that everything is in our favor. This is where we get our new life. This is where we get that new sense of, oh, yeah, okay, it is working in my favor. Because as we exercise that muscle, we get stronger at noticing the things around us. Saying, wow, I just had that conversation. I was just reading this thing. I just saw that. And look how that got connected. And then it goes back to, wow, look at this pattern that has been there, this divine pattern that says, wow, look at how this is all connected. It keeps us there. It keeps us, and it grows and it expands and it expands and it expands until we realize we are not ever separate. And that is the faith in things unseen. The faith in things unseen, that's where we have to place our faith, because everything in front of us right now is the outpicturing of where we have put our faith before. What we think about, we bring about. That simple, simple phrase. I watched this documentary just a couple of nights ago. I think it's on Amazon Prime, and it's called From Stress to Happiness, with the French Buddhist monk. He lives in Nepal, Matthew Ricard. And it's about an hour film. And what the first thing that I noticed about it is they took this trip. It was Matthew Ricard. It was Brother David Stindelrast. And it looked like a small group of maybe meditators or so forth. But the filmmaker and his wife put this trip together as part of this documentary. The filmmaker was looking for a teacher to meditate because of this. He's 39 years old when this was filmed, and he was talking about the enormous amount of stress in the life that he's living, is putting his kids through school and marriage and his job and traveling all over the place, being a filmmaker. And the first thing I noticed is here they are. They went to Patagonia and the Mount Fitzroy and the stunning nature scene. And there's heavy snow coming down, and it's very cold, and they're hiking to this beautiful log cabin, and here's Matthew Ricard in his robes, in his Buddhist monk robes. And the only thing that he had on other than that was he did have some boots, but no socks. You could see, bare legs in his robes. He had like a down vest or a jacket, a light down vest, and a knit cap on his head and some gloves. And that was it. And everybody else was all bundled up. And, I went, wow, there's a mindset. There's faith that he's okay, that he's warm wherever he is. And so the interesting part of this is that the filmmaker's wife, at one point in the films, asked him a question about what is it that people should be asking themselves. And we're talking about a new life. We're talking about alleviating stress and fear and all of those things and living our best lives. And the interesting thing that he said, I did a transcript of this little section, and he said before asking the question, they should realize how incredibly precious human life is. Before you ask any question, get into the mindset, meditate on the preciousness of human life. He said, because it's long, its life is long, and it has incredible potential. And having become aware of that, having taken measure of that, the question they should then ask is, how can I use my life in the best possible way? All of the gifts that we were given, the infinite abundance that we are surrounded by, day in and day out. How can I extract the quintessential parts of life to live it in the best way? And that leads us to the next question. What kinds of thoughts, words, occupations would give meaning to human life? And what are the other ambitions, occupations, and aspirations that cause us to only waste time? He quotes Seneca in saying that it's not that we don't have much time, it's that we waste so much time. So every moment is precious. Every single moment is precious. That is the key before we ever start asking any questions, is to meditate and get that into our conscious awareness, how every single moment is precious. So he goes on to say, from the Buddhist perspective, the best way to use one's time, if every moment is so precious, how do we best use our time? And he says, from the Buddhist perspective, the best way to use one's time is to reflect on the causes of suffering. And the causes of our suffering are rooted in delusions, in grasping to the small self, in making a distinction between ourselves and others, in being separate and saying us against them. That is what generates anger. That's what generates hate and pride and jealousy and all of the things that throw us into the conditions that we're seeing in the world right now and have seen throughout humanity. So he says, this is all based on the misunderstanding of the law of cause and effect. It's right back to where we study all the time. At the same people, I love how he said that. He said, at the same time, people want to keep their hand in the fire, but they don't want to get burned. Think about that for a moment. We want to keep our hand in the drama and all of the stuff, but we don't want it to affect us, and it doesn't work. What we think about, we bring about. What we put our attention on, we get more of. What we resist persists. So the next question is, what will bring me a fulfilled life? If not power, money, fame, reputation, and all that, because that's not. That is temporary. It is temporal. It is looking outside of ourselves for the answers to all of our things, for happiness, for contentment, for peace. When we focus, contemplate that question, what will bring me a fulfilled life? And we get that answer. We understand that the most satisfactory moments are the ones full of love for other sentient beings, moments of inner freedom where you enjoy the beauty of every moment that passes and you're fully content, and I love how he says this, you're fully content in the pure freshness of the present moment. There is nothing else you could wish for. I know some of you have had that experience. I've had that experience. And it usually happens in nature, which is the high recommendation of all of our spiritual teachers for eons have found spirit, have found the mystical, have found the wonder in contemplating and being in nature, in beautiful, beautiful spots like at Mount Fitzroy. And he comments on that too, and it makes it easier, certainly. But when we can recall that, we can recall those places and pull those, if we call it our happy place in our meditation. That's why we go to our happy place, because it opens us up to the possibilities that exist. So he says, beauty of every moment that passes, and you're fully content in the pure freshness of that present moment. There is nothing else you could wish for. It's complete, and it's very simple, but it's also very deep, and it's very rich. So the question always comes around again, so why do I still have yearnings and longings for other things of this quality? An appreciation of this inner freedom in realizing the pure awareness of the mind is so full and so complete. By asking ourselves the questions, what would fulfill me? We ask, how can I go deeper? How can I go deeper? How can I go deeper? How can I get more freedom? And then express that freedom in ways that are benefiting to others. That's the important key. It's not just about us. It has to start with us. But once we get that, and we get that sense, and we realize we're connected, we ask that question, how can I go deeper, and how can what is benefiting me benefit others? Which brings us right back around to that question. How can I best use this life that I was given? It sounds like a lot. And I love how he says this. By asking yourself how to go deeper and deeper, get more and more freedom, and then express that freedom in ways that are benefiting to others, then you are able to say, I have used my life correctly. So the last part of this, how do we do this? We do our work, we do our meditation, we go deep diving into these places, and a lot of times that requires, most of the time it requires, we do the shadow work. Those things that we think other people do not see in us, but I can tell you what they do. And those that love us are very kind and gentle about pointing it out and sometimes just letting us get to it on our own. And then we have the realization, holy smokes. Patience, that's the thing. We set intentions, we affirm things, we do spiritual mind treatment, we do all of our spiritual practice. We exercise that faith muscle. We get real strong with it. And then there are times we know we do all of those things and things don't appear to work out. Well, they don't work out the way we would have preferred, but they work out exactly in the divine right order that Spirit has laid out for us. And so we see patience is incredibly important because it leads us to that place of trusting, right back to trust, that the universe, Spirit, God is indeed always conspiring in our favor. So you see this cyclical nature of how we do this. And it's really not cyclical, it's spiral. We learn it at a new level, we learn it at the next level, we learn it at the next level. There's some beautiful quotes, and I want to share this one with you. And this is from Ernest Holmes, from Holmes' Reader on Meaning. Life flows into everything through everything. It passes into every human event and I'm going to start over. Life flows into everything through everything. It passes into every human event and translates itself through every human act. If you think upon life, with a capital L, as flowing through your every action, you will soon discover that the things you give your attention to are quickened with new energy, for you are breathing the very essence of being into them. Quote from Ram Dass: "The soul's game is not about getting a new job, friends, lifestyle, making more money, or getting a new car, finding a new partner, or a new therapist. This life is about finding a way to be in the world that connects you to your soul." And I'm going to leave you with one last quote today because this one really got in this week. And it is by a gentleman named Richard Wagamisi. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's from his book called Embers, One Ojibwe's Meditations. And what he says is, to believe in something and not live it is dishonest. So what we say we believe in, it's our instruction, it is our guidance, it is that nudge, divine nudge, that is pushing us to live it. Because really that is how the law works. If we believe it, we better be able to prove it. That's the bottom line. So, with that, as we move into spiritual mind treatment, the last part of this is trust. Going easy. Knowing this is a process. It's a practice. We're not going to get it right off the bat. And we can spend an entire lifetime practicing it and still feel like we're not getting it right. But when we go easy, we go easy, we go easy. We know that the universe is indeed always conspiring for our highest and best. And that is the new life that we get to live every single moment. So let's go into treatment. I invite you to take a deep breath and ground yourself. I invite you to take another deep breath. And as you relax, allow the thoughts, the questions, the ideas, the inspirations, just let them settle for just a minute. And what I know is that power and that presence, only one thing that is moving through me, moving through everyone on this Zoom meeting in this service today, everyone who may be watching later, everyone, no matter when, where they are. Just like our breath, it is moving through us continuously without our having to do anything about it. So what I know and I affirm is that this presence that is expressing as us stands solidly, lovingly, with a smile on its face at all times, not judging us, simply waiting on us to recognize it. It is our great pleasure to do so. It is God's great pleasure to give us the opportunity. And there is no forcing, no cajoling, no strategizing, no anything other than to simply turn to it with gratitude. To recognize in every single moment the preciousness of what an incredible gift it is that we are here at all. And so I affirm, I acknowledge that we take the time to breathe into it, even if it's just for a minute. To stop and acknowledge and look around and be aware that we are breathing and our heart is beating. So breathe into that space. I know and I affirm this truth because I feel the joy rising in me, I feel the gratitude rising in me, and I know that this does exist. This is that place where we find the meaning of life. Is simply to be, to notice, to appreciate, to give thanks, and to radiate that to everyone and everything that we encounter day in and day out. So thank you, God. Thank you, God, for the recognition, the knowledge of this truth. There is nothing else that I need to do in this moment except let go and let it be so, because it is already so. And we can affirm this together by saying, and so it is.